On the night of September 26, 1983, while most of the world was asleep, nothing seemed unusual. Cities were quiet, streets were empty, families were safe in their homes, completely unaware that history was about to change. There were no explosions, no warnings, no panic. But far beneath the surface, inside a secret Soviet bunker, something had just begun. A system designed to detect nuclear war suddenly activated. At first, it was just a signal, small, unclear. But within seconds, it turned into something far more serious.
The system began tracking objects, calculating speed, analyzing direction, and then it made a terrifying conclusion. A nuclear missile had been launched, then another, and another. According to the system, the United States had just started a nuclear attack. Inside the control room, alarms began screaming. Red lights flashed violently. Officers stared at their screens, frozen, because they all knew what came next. If this was real, millions would die within minutes, and there would be only one response: retaliation. Immediate, unstoppable, total destruction. And in the middle of that moment, one man sat in front of that screen, watching, thinking, and about to decide the fate of the entire world.
In 1983, the world was living on the edge of destruction. This was the height of the Cold War, a time when the United States and the Soviet Union were not just rivals, but enemies, preparing for the possibility of total war. For years, both sides had been building nuclear weapons, not just a few, but thousands, each one powerful enough to destroy an entire city in seconds. Missiles were always ready, hidden in underground silos, loaded inside submarines deep beneath the oceans, and carried by bombers waiting for orders. Everything was designed for one purpose: to strike back instantly. Because in a nuclear war, speed was everything. There would be no time to think, no time to confirm, no time to hesitate. If one side launched, the other side had to respond immediately. This strategy had a name: mutually assured destruction, or simply MAD. And it meant exactly what it sounded like. If war ever started, both sides would be destroyed. Entire cities gone. Millions of lives erased in seconds. And the world would never be the same again. And now, inside that bunker, the system was saying it had already begun.
In the middle of all that chaos sat a man who was never supposed to change history. His name was Stanislav Petrov. He wasn't a general, he wasn't a politician, he wasn't someone with power or influence. He was just an officer, trained to follow orders and trust the system. His job was simple: monitor the screens, and if the system detected a nuclear attack, report it immediately. That report would go up the chain of command, and within minutes a decision would be made, a decision to launch a full nuclear response. Petrov had been trained for this: every scenario, every outcome, every possible situation. But there was one thing he was never trained for: doubt. Because as he stared at the screen, something didn't feel right. The system showed incoming missiles, but not many, just a few. 1, then 4, then 5. That didn't make sense. If the United States was launching a nuclear war, they wouldn't send just a handful of missiles. They would send everything. Hundreds, thousands, enough to guarantee total destruction. But this felt different. Too small, too precise, too strange. And in that moment, a single thought entered his mind. The alarms were still screaming.
The system was still insisting that the attack was real. Every second that passed brought the world closer to nuclear war. Inside that room, no one moved, no one spoke. All eyes were on one man, waiting for him to follow protocol, to pick up the phone, to report the attack. Because once he did, there would be no going back. Missiles would be launched, cities would disappear, millions of lives gone in seconds. Everything he had been trained to do told him to act, to trust the system, to follow orders, but something inside him refused. A small voice telling him this was wrong, that this didn't make sense, that something was missing. He looked at the data again. 5 missiles. Just 5. And in that moment, and then he made a decision that went against everything he had been trained to do. He chose not to report it. He chose to wait. Seconds passed, then minutes. Every moment felt like a lifetime. Everyone in that room was waiting for the worst, waiting for impact, waiting for the sky to burn. But nothing happened. No explosions, no missiles, no war. The system was wrong. It was a false alarm. That night, one man ignored protocol and saved the world. If he had followed orders, nuclear war could have begun. Millions, maybe billions, would have died. Cities would have vanished. The world as we know it would not exist. But because he hesitated, because he questioned the system, because he chose to think, humanity survived. The alert was later confirmed to be a false alarm, caused by something incredibly simple: sunlight reflecting off clouds. A small error that nearly ended the world. And yet, most people have never heard his name. Stanislav Petrov, the man who saved the world.